Kurata was a genius programmer and a mech fanatic who liked his job and was also socially loved by those around him. This was rare for a work-obsessed nerd. His cushy life came to an end when he was hit by Karchan, the troubled cousin of Truck-kun. He found himself reincarnated as an overpowered genius boy named Eru, who belonged to the noble Echevalier family. He woke up in this new fantasy world to find his mother and grandfather fighting off an attack from some demon beasts as they returned from a trip. His eyes lit up when a mech unit dashed through the forest and eliminated the creature to save him from the jaws of the monster. Eru's father piloted the mech that landed the finishing blow. He came out to check on his family, but Eru was more interested in the mech. His dad informed him that they are powered by magic. He immediately expressed his wish to also be a pilot when he grew up. They were formerly known as night runners. Eru engrossed himself in the repetitive study and swordsmanship training that most kids despised. His determination to be a night runner, coupled with his love for mechs and his previous life, was his main motivation. Understanding magic became simple when he realized that it was like programming. 3 years passed, and Eru was doing his morning training when he met the twins Addy and Archid. They were impressed with his magic and pled with him to teach them. Eru was more than willing to tutor them, and soon became friends with the siblings. It's revealed that their hometown existed for the single purpose of training night runners. Naturally, Eru and the twins enrolled in the academy as soon as they were of age. Eru was so excited when he saw a class on mech design in the school guide, but this fizzled out a little when he was told that those classes are for the middle school students. As an elementary student, he would be studying the fundamentals of magic. Eru made it clear that he wanted to be a night runner as soon as possible. The teacher assumed that he lacked the knowledge of the basics since he was so young, but it was obvious that he was too short to be entering mechs anytime soon, since they are designed for adults. Eru left the class disappointed, but the twins tried to cheer him up. He decided to make his own mech that would fit his current stature, and got excited just thinking about all the customizations he could do. This only made gaining knowledge on mech design principles even more important. His thoughts on how to get out of his current class were disturbed by the commotion of some students picking on Batson, a dwarf knightsmith. The trio used wind magic to help him retrieve the hammer. The incident got them acquainted, so Batson took them to his family forge. While there, Eru came up with the idea to create a more efficient tool than the rods they currently use to cast their spells. He drew the design and called it a gun rod. It combined the power of a sword to cut enemies with a gun that fires magic. The senior smith present was intrigued by the idea and built it for him. Eru brought the weapon to his mana measurement test. He asked his teacher to excuse him from the magical fundamentals class if he showed skills that exceeded what was being taught in the class. The teacher scoffed at the idea, because that would mean him demonstrating the same level of mana and knowledge as a middle school student. He didn't think this was possible, so he agreed to Eru's proposal. The boy pulled out his gun rod to everyone's shock and surprised them further by blowing away all the targets with high-level spells. As promised, Eru was permitted to take middle school classes. His extraordinary feat soon spread through the school. Another 3 years passed after that incident, and Eru snuck to the mech service center with Baston to get a look at the ether reactor. Its design was a national secret because it was the core of the machines. It normally took hundreds of years of hard work to make any new advancement in the mechs, but Eru was confident that he could create a unique one. His observations was cut short because they had to leave for some field exercises and combat training. It was held in a forest which had smaller demon beasts. The convoy was protected by mechs piloted by the high schoolers. They arrived at their campsite that evening. The trio finished their dinner when they were joined by Steph, the half-sister of the twins. She acknowledged them as her siblings despite the twins' mother not being of noble descent. This meant that they were not in the line of succession. Addy got protective over Eru when it seemed like Steph was interested in him. Eru later went to admire the parked mechs where one of his seniors allowed him into the cockpit. He tried but couldn't reach some of the controls. Nonetheless, he enjoyed his time in there, and it only boosted his resolve to make his own. Everyone was woken up in the middle of the night and ordered to evacuate the area because the third years were unexpectedly attacked by a large horde of demons during their night training. They were quickly overwhelmed, but Eru and the twins came in clutch and held the creatures off with their modified weapons. The mechs later came in to finish the job. Eru could sense that something more nefarious caused this. He was right because a division-class demon beast had appeared at an outpost nearby. The captain on duty sent a messenger to the nearest city to inform them of the danger. Everyone else hopped in their mechs and begun to engage the demon. Some bombarded it with spells while others attacked it with their blades, but it deflected everything. The monster countered by crushing those that got close to it and finished off the captain with a fire blast that also destroyed their defenses. Fortunately, The messenger got to the city in time and informed them of the danger. The leadership gathered their troops to meet the demon beast when they realized that the students were close to the monster's location. During that interval, the students took stock of the injured and continued their evacuation of the area. Eru was sure that these smaller demons were running away from something bigger, and like clockwork, the division-class demon reached their location. Eru fired a warning blast to calm his fellow students down and directed them to the carriages. The high schoolers used their mechs to distract the monster, but they soon realized that they were outmatched when one of their comrades lost his life to a fire attack. Dietrich got scared and ran away from the battle. Eru saw this and chased after him. He caught up to his senior and knocked him out after confirming that he deserted. Eru entered the mech but still couldn't reach the controls, so he connected his gun rods to give him access. Eru synchronized with the mech and used his unique inputs to take control. This had never been done before. Within a short time, he was dashing back to the battle and was full of joy because he finally got to pilot a mech. He arrived just as his seniors were about to taste defeat. He turned the tide of the fight by lodging his blade in the eye of the demon beast. He continued skillfully dodging its attacks and tried to counter, but he realized that its body was covered in a hard magic-resistant shell. This defense was powered by the catalyst crystals. Dietrich regained consciousness and started to panic when he saw the demon beast right in their field of view. Eru was unimpressed with his reaction and told him to pipe down. His last attack caused his blade to snap. Dietrich pointed out an intact sword that was next to the monster, so Eru went to retrieve it. However, he noticed that his mana was down to less than 20%. He was determined to take at least the demon beast's leg before he lost power. Luckily, the reinforcements from the city arrived. The captain of the unit had never seen anyone control a mech the way Eru did. He praised him as they engaged the monster. His unit used some heavy-duty spikes to do some damage, but the creature eliminated anyone else who tried to get closer. Eru felt like only mechs were permitted to destroy each other and started to attack when he noticed that the demon beast's enhancement magic was running out. The others continued their suppression bombardment. Eru experienced metal fatigue because he pushed the mech beyond its physical limits. He got an idea to exterminate the monster. He gave Dietrich temporal control and climbed out. He amplified his air spell using the mech, which slowed down the demon beast charge, allowing him to hold on to the blade he lodged in earlier. He unleashed an electrical bolt through its body, which destroyed the brain of the creature, bringing it down. Everyone was dumbfounded to learn that it was Eru controlling the mech all this time, and was the one who defeated the monster. Word later reached the king of the child who eliminated a division-class beast. This was kept secret from the rest of the army, because they didn't want to affect the knight's morale. The monarch was impressed and wished to meet the little genius. Eru was soon summoned to the capital to meet the king. The kid was led to the audience by his grandfather. The monarch was impressed with Eru's composure as the lad confirmed his identity. The king admitted that he couldn't think of the proper way to reward him for his success. His grandfather didn't feel like this was necessary since he was still a child. The king didn't think age should be a factor when it came to rewarding such a feat. He summoned Eru to find out what he wanted as his reward. The lad contemplated if he was getting tested and should say no. He couldn't allow such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity pass, so he requested for the one thing that would be impossible to get under normal means. Eru asked for the plans on how to create the ether reactor, also known as the heart of the mech. The advisors were shocked and annoyed by his request. Marquis Dixgard started to berate him, since it was the country's highest-kept secret. The king confirmed Eru's assumption that he was the only one who could grant his wish. He wanted to know what the boy was planning to do once he had learned the mysteries of the ether reactor. Eru confidently voiced his goal of becoming a night runner and creating his own unique mech. He made the king laugh when he stated that it was also his hobby. The grandfather apologized on his grandson's behalf. The monarch interrupted and stunned everyone by granting his wish. However, he wanted Eru to show him proof that he could make good use of the knowledge, so he tasked him with creating a body of a mech that would impress him, so Eru accepted the challenge. The twins' father was also present at the meeting, so he called his illegitimate children and asked them to report Eru's progress to him since they were close. But he ordered them not to tell the lad that they were doing this and made it seem like it would only interfere in his work. Repairs on some of the mechs that were broken during the last battle got fixed at the workshop. David, who was the boss, couldn't believe the state of Dietrich's neck. They replaced the crystal tissue only a month ago, so to see it worn out to this level after a night of fighting was unprecedented. Eru startled him when he came to admire the broken machine and confessed that he was the one responsible for leaving it in such a state. David wanted to hear more, so Eru explained how he took control, which allowed him to remove all the limiters on the mech. A depressed-looking Dietrich confirmed it all. Iru gave him credit for his help in defeating the beast, which seemed to make him feel a little better. The lad then presented his ideas on how they could improve the mech. This led them to revamping the crystal tissue to a strand type, which made the machines stronger. They did modifications like adding extra limbs dedicated to holding rods for long-range attacks. To further help with manufacturing, he got permission from the headmaster to create a smaller type of mech called the silhouette gear. After much research along with failure and improvements, they significantly modified the mechs in their possession and were ready for a test run. This was a success to everyone's joy. Edgar and an older model had a mock fight with Helvi, who was in the new version. They had an intense clash. Helvi had the upper hand but ran out of mana before she could land the finishing blow. The team had a party to celebrate their advancements, but they knew they had to work on the decreased fuel efficiency, which was caused by the increased power. One of the engineers slipped out of the celebrations and went to report the progress to Kirhilt and her men, who were members of the Order of the Bronze Fang. They decided to wait for the new mech to be completed before they made their move. The following day, the team gathered to solve the mana drain issue, otherwise these new mechs could not be used in real combat. They took a break after brainstorming some ideas, and Iru used that time to add weapons to the silhouette gears. He first showcased the wire anchor, which greatly improved the mobility of the machines. Arkid's gear had a crossbow attachment. He shot at some targets, and was astonished by the force each arrow flew with as it destroyed the targets and put holes in the wall behind. The team later settled on increasing the mana storage capacity by adding some external canisters around the mech, but it made them too bulky and ruined the balance. They went back to the drawing board and designed an elegant back unit that increased the mana capacity, which also maintained the balance. Iru later had a class on the continent's geography. It was split in two by the Obina Mountains. There were many kingdoms to the west of the mountains. They were also collectively known as Occident. Iru's kingdom was in the east, but the two sides were connected to the Bacchus Forest, which is where the demon beasts originated from. After the lesson, Iru met up with his grandfather to check out the improved mechs, and he was surprised by the extensive modifications. It was basically a new unit, but this was not what Iru planned to present to the king as he asked for the best, and these were far from it. Dave suggested that the granddad pass the report of the new machines to the lab. The old man was worried about the effect it would have on the institute. They normally undertook major government mech development projects. No one could predict how they'd react when they learned that all this was accomplished by a student. The twins decided to report Iru's feat to their father, in hopes that he could protect their friend if the lab wanted to take credit for Iru's work. Their dad instead sent this information to Marquis Dixgard, who deployed his men to the academy. The students were gathered where the commander informed them that the Marquis had taken interest in the new mechs and wanted to see them for himself. They had to bring all of it to Fort Cassidasis, along with the knights who could operate them. The seniors jumped into them and were escorted by Dixgard's men, while Iru and David followed in a carriage. One of Kirhilt's men tried to stop them by using cursed bait to lure out some worm demon beasts, but the new mechs defeated them with ease with the support of Iru. The commander was stunned by the power of the modified machines. The bad actor rushed back to Kirhilt to update her on what happened. She was happy to hear that the new machines were formidable, and she had the perfect plan to infiltrate the impregnable fortress. 1 week passed and everyone returned to the academy apart from Iru. The twins were shocked to hear this, but Adi was more devastated because it meant she'd have to wait longer to get her Iru fix. Meanwhile, the commander gave his brief on the new mechs, and they were vastly superior to what they currently have. Dixgard was dumbfounded because it normally took hundreds of years and countless resources to make improvements to mech, so for a child to make such drastic enhancements in such a short period of time was unprecedented. He summoned Iru to give a detailed presentation on the advances of the new mechs. After questioning him, the old man concluded that the lad just had a passion for mechs and didn't have any ulterior motives for wanting to learn how to make an ether reactor. During that interval, Steph and her younger siblings confronted their dad about informing Dixgard of Iru's progress. He just wanted to give the young man the spotlight. A couple more days passed, and Adi was getting some serious Iru withdrawal, so David suggested they use the fact that Dietrich's mech had new tech as an excuse to visit Fort Cassidasis to see Iru. Meanwhile, a village near the fort was attacked by demon beasts. The knights deployed as soon as they were alerted to the danger. A number of Kirhilt's units sent a bug signal to inform his comrades of the enemy's movement. It seemed like they were responsible luring the monsters there, because Kirhilt prepared for the next stage of their plan. Back at the academy, Dietrich's upgraded mech was completed, but he was disappointed that they had to give it to Dixgard. It's revealed that the academy would be given replacements soon. Everyone was ready to set off, and the twins had packed silhouette gears. By the evening time, the unit that were sent to the village had defeated all the monsters. A messenger was sent to give the report, while the others stayed back to repair the damage to the village. He was ambushed and eliminated by Kirhilt. They took control of the mech and gained access to the fort by pretending to be the messenger. The other members followed behind in a cart. They began their assault as soon as they arrived at the fort's mech storage and service center. They hopped into Iru's upgraded mechs and destroyed any machines they couldn't take along. The thieves were confronted by a unit as the Marquis was getting informed of the situation. Iru interrupted and wanted to join the fight, but Dixgard was against this because he was now the core of their nation's mech development. He sent the commander out instead to deal with them. Some of Kirhilt's men held him off to allow her to escape. She blew up the bridge as soon as they crossed it to prevent anyone from following them. Unfortunately for them, they met the students from the academy on the path to the fort. Kirhilt wasted no time and attacked. She didn't expect them to be a challenge since they were still in school. David rode toward the fortress while Dietrich and Edgar held off the thieves. As soon as the cart got to safety, the twins got in their silhouette gears to offer support to the boys. During that interval, Dietrich managed to defeat one of the assailants, but the pilot got away when he blinded Dietrich's vision with a flashbang. Edgar was joined by the twins as they chased down Kirhilt and her remaining comrade. Back at the fort, Iru watched the commotion from a vantage point and was devastated that he couldn't join the fight. His wish came true when he noticed David and Baston at the entrance. He dashed down to meet them. The lad was told about their interaction with the rogue mechs. He jumped into his silhouette gear and first helped the commander incapacitate those in the fort before heading out to support his fellow students. Back in the forest, Kirhilt noticed that they were running out of mana too quickly and wouldn't get past the Obene Mountains if they kept on going at this pace, so they decided to stop and deal with their pursuers. The twins took out the mech that tried to flank Edgar. This allowed him to fight Kirhilt without distraction. Sadly for the senior, she was too experienced and left him and his mech in a terrible condition after defeating him. Kirhilt was long gone by the time Dietrich and the others arrived. Things got worse when a swarm of dual-class demon beasts blocked the way. Dietrich refused to run away this time. Iru overheard his resolve, and along with the commander, they spent the rest of the night fighting off the demons. Day broke, and Dixgard was troubled because a human-led assault had never taken place in their kingdom. The commander also informed him that trace of cursed bait was found at the site of the demon beasts. It is a forbidden concoction that drives demon beasts into a frenzy. Using it was one of their nation's greatest taboos. This made them suspect that the attackers weren't from their country, which only begs the question of where the stolen mech was taken. The students involved were summoned to the capital several days later. The king commended them on their excellent work on the new mechs. The recent theft of their mech made him realize that he needed to create a new knightly order to assist in bolstering their security around cutting-edge technology. He made Iru the commander of this new unit and named it the Order of the Silver Phoenix. Edgar regained consciousness after his L and was ecstatic to hear about this new knightly order. It's revealed that Helvi's mech was the one that got stolen. Edgar apologized to her and promised to get it back. Iru had a dream about his personal mech and was woken up by Adi clinging to him too much. He tickled her to get her off him. Their play was interrupted when their home city came into view. Meanwhile, the new mech was sent to the lab for inspection. Chief Geiska berated his staff for taking too long to analyze something that was made by a child. They pointed out the complex changes that were made. Oliver also came over to see the new machine, because it had been a century since such a huge update. Geiska excused himself and had the plan to use this new mech as the base to create a mass-produced model so that his name will go down in history. The king and Dixgard had a meeting regarding the culprit of the attack. They suspected it to be one of the nations in Occident. The monarch put the Marquis in command of a spy unit as a way for him to atone for his failure. Iru shocked his family at dinner when he informed them of his promotion to Knight Commander of the new created unit. He intended to continue being a student at the academy till his graduation and has been given permission to use the Academy Night Runner's facilities as his base. He later also introduced a new silhouette gear which had a miniaturized engine. This allowed the dwarves to use it. David got excited because it would help them work more efficiently. Iru also took delivery of 2 companies of mechs as promised by Dixgard. He also got a message from the king, tasking them with creating new mechs that would have a mock battle with a unit developed by the lab. They were given 10 months to complete this. Based on what he learned from the Casadesius incident, Iru wanted to create a mech that had superior speed and mobility. Everyone had a puzzled look when he showed the plans. As they began fabrication, Iru wanted to make other equipment that would allow them to use new tactics. Time passed as the team worked hard. They even welcomed new students to their unit. This was a perfect chance for Nora to embed herself into the school. She was a member of the spy unit and was assigned to Iru. She reported all the suspicious persons at the school that they had apprehended. The information leaker was caught during that operation. From their investigation, they were sure that the attackers were from another country. Iru was happy with Nora's report and left her to continue her work. Adi got jealous when she saw her exit in his office. She wanted to get his attention, so she barged in and demanded to be a night runner. Iru was also thinking the same, but he needed her help with something first. He strapped up an experimental weapon to one of the new mechs they just took delivery of. He fired the weapon, and the sound wave shattered some of the glass in the city. The blast sent the mech flying and destroyed it. Iru regained consciousness and understood what had to be changed. He was later berated by David for endangering his life and destroying a new mech. He quickly changed the topic by showing the twins their unique mech, which needed 2 pilots working in harmony. It was loaded with 2 ether reactors. Iru also introduced a special key now needed to operate their mechs. The team continued to work till only 3 days remained, till their mock battle. Iru was confident that they would astonish the king with their creations. The day of the mock battle came, and it was held at the capital, and all the important people gathered. Geisker got excited as his creations stepped onto the field. He had even summoned a group of elite night runners called the Aruvans to man his units. The chief outlined the changes he made to solve the mana drain issues. The king was impressed with the improvements and turned to introduce the Order of the Silver Phoenix. Everyone was gobsmacked when a centaur-looking mech came out hauling a pot. It opened to reveal the other improved mechs in Iru's machine. The students emerged from their cockpits and greeted their king along with the other officials. The elite pilots now understood why they were summoned. They thought that it would be an easy fight against some kids, but after seeing their mech, the pilots knew it was going to be a fun battle. Geiska started to fume with jealousy. As the officials gave Iru hype, the king gave both sides some time to prepare. Iru was excited to fight against the lab's version of his ideas. As the students gathered to go over their battle strategy, Prince Emrys decided to get a field seat despite it being more dangerous. He was the grandson of the king and had recently returned from living and training in the Kushpercha kingdom, which was a nation in Occident. The prince was impressed by the progress made during his absence. 1 centaur mech was the equivalent of 3 infantry mechs, so to make it a fair fight, it was 6 of the lab's mechs versus the students' 4. Both sides lined up and the signal was given to start. Iru left everyone speechless when his mech flew with great speed. He dodged the oncoming blasts and knocked out one of the lab's mechs in a single hit. No one had ever seen a machine move like that before. Iru didn't expect that technique to take so much mana, so he retreated to allow his machine to recharge. In the meantime, Edgar, Dietrich, and the twins continued the pressure with their attacks. The Silver Phoenix unit had the advantage after the first exchange. The Aravans unit displayed why they were elite, because they adjusted to the unorthodox mechs by the second clash. Their mechs were a little easier to control despite having less power, so they were able to grind their opponents down by holding them off. The elites were about to capitalize on the fact that the students were running out of mana, but Iru charged up just enough to land one last devastating knee with speed. The movement of his mech stunned everyone. The king had seen enough of the capabilities of the new mechs, so he ended the fight as a draw. Everyone was awestruck by the battle, and Emrys found Iru to be a very interesting guy. Geiska rushed over to Iru, and they both started geeking out about their mechs. After seeing their interaction, Ulver now understood why the king arranged this exercise. The Silver Phoenix unit provide revolutionary designs, while the lab can refine these radical ideas and implement them into their mass-produced models. Geiska's interaction with Iru reignited the passion in him. 2 months passed after the mock battle, and the lab had completed the next generation of mechs and began mass production. Meanwhile, the Silver Phoenix Knights developed a 1-person version of the Centaur mech and further enhanced its fighting power. Helvi was given one to pilot. Back at the capital, the king called a meeting with his son Leonimus and expressed his wish to turn over the role of king to him. Emrys was also present to witness his dad officially take over from his grandfather. A coronation was done soon after, and the kingdom had a new monarch. Around the same time, Iru and his friends graduated middle school. The Silver Phoenix unit were moved to the newly constructed fort called Orabesius. Iru was later summoned to the capital where he officially met Emrys. But the former king called him because he wanted the lad to make him a custom mech. He didn't have one since the royal machine is exclusively for the sitting monarch. Emrys also wanted one, so they requested 2 mechs be made. Emrys outlined his spec, which was power-orientated. The former king left Iru to make something appropriate for him. They returned to their fort and began work on the mechs. After a little while, the machines were finished, and one looked like a golden lion and the other a silver tiger. The grandfather and grandson both wanted the golden lion, so they decided to have a duel to settle who would take it. The two had an intense battle as it's revealed that the former king was a highly skilled knight runner in his prime. Old age caught up to him, so he ended up losing. He watched on with pride as Emrys took his prize. One day, Leotimus received a top-secret message informing them that a huge horde of shell-cased demon beasts were heading to the Alfheim village. The Erevan's knights had already taken up defensive positions and were ready to defend the village with their lives. The shell-cased are a type of beast similar to ants. They have a single queen in the horde which did the breeding. In rare cases like this, there are multiple queens in the horde, but they normally split. One of these hordes was headed to Alfheim village, which was a top-secret location. The former king also got word of the trouble and relayed this information to the Silver Phoenix Knights. He also revealed that Alfheim village was where their nation's ether reactors are made. Eru couldn't let such an important place get destroyed, so he deployed his unit to help deal with the demon beasts. They arrived to find the Aravan's knights struggling, so the centaur mechs cleared a path which allowed the others to come out. Emrys couldn't wait to try out his new mech and cut down a demon bug before firing a blast that wiped out a large part of the horde. He was shocked by how much mana his last attack took. The former king ordered Eru to locate and eliminate the queen while they dealt with the shell-cased creatures. Eru equipped the guns on the carriage being pulled by the twins and shot their way through into the forest. Within a short while, they encountered the queen, and it was the same size as a division-class demon beast. They first tried to attack its legs, but their blasts and strikes didn't work. He quickly changed tactics when he identified its weak points. A few shots caused the queen's egg sacs to burst. She got mad and started chasing the trio down. Eru exited the carriage and hit the upper joints on the queen's leg, causing her to fall. He tied a cable to a blade and lodged it in her head and unleashed an electric current that destroyed the monster's brain. The others cleared up the remaining shell-cased demons, and by the evening time they were back at the fort taking stock on their damages and making repairs. The Aravan's knights expressed their gratitude for the help. Edgar was there to receive it because Eru was in a meeting with the former king. He outlined all the feats Eru had completed and felt like it was more than enough to grant him his wish of learning the ether reactor's construction method. Only those in Alfheim village knew the method, and outsiders could enter only if they are granted permission by the ambassador. Alves stepped forward as the ambassador and was happy to take him to his village. They set off to the village the following day. Eru's weapons were sealed because they are not allowed there. The residents of Alfheim were descendants of the Alves, who are an ancient race with a lifespan of 500 years. Alves disclosed that he's 87, and the Alves are in their prime condition until they reach 200. After that, their energy depletes, and they laze around and sleep like sloths. The ambassadors act as a bridge to the outside world, so they are not told the secrets of how to make the reactors. Alves made it clear that he could only take him to the village and could not guarantee that they would teach him their secrets. Eru didn't care because all he wanted to do was get there. They soon arrived at the village, and the beauty of the place took their breath away. The trio went to meet the Great Elder, who initially refused to teach Eru because humans don't normally have the capacity to understand their work, but she took a closer look at him and agreed. The lad was given a brief explanation of the history of the ether reactor and the materials needed to make it. The Alves can use magic without a medium, since they have catalyst crystals in their bodies. This allows them to refine the mithril that is essential in making the reactors. The power of a given reactor is based on the size of the catalyst. Ones taken from larger and higher-level demon beasts are more efficient and powerful. However, ether reactors for the mass-produced models are made from mined crystals because they are more stable and easier to acquire. Eru had access to the catalyst crystals from the division-class demon beast and the shell-cased queen since he was the one who defeated them. He planned to use it for his dream mech. The former king left him in the village so that he could learn. Eru absorbed all the information like a sponge, and within 3 months the lad learned all their secrets. The elder was surprised and realized that Eru understood the laws of their world that the other humans couldn't comprehend. He returned to base and quickly got to work on his dream mech. He used the silhouette gear to channel the magic needed to refine the mithril. Nora had another meeting to update Eru, and Adi confronted her when she came out, but the spy revealed her identity to the girl and assured her that she wasn't interested in Eru. The work continued on the mech till it was completed. Eru fired it up, and it was truly a one of one. It was made to his spec with the cores of both high-level demon beasts he defeated. Meanwhile, at the other side of the mountain, the king of the Zeludek Empire made a speech to his army of Black Knight mechs about how the Western lands was once ruled by one king. He was looking to bring that time back. This campaign would later be known as the Western Grand Storm. It's revealed that they were the ones who stole Eru's mechs, and the results are evident as all their machines were based on that design. Word of Zeludek's conquest of some tiny nation soon spread to the Kushpercha kingdom. They had a war council about their next move. Princess Eleonora worried that war was coming to their doorstep, but her father assured her that they will push the invaders back. The Black Knights easily pushed through the Kushpercha kingdom, but their rapid advance was stalled at a great wall. The defenders saw this as a perfect opportunity to end the battle, so they sent most of their army to the wall to have the decisive fight. Sadly, this was a terrible miscalculation. An air unit led by Cristobal flew over the capital as soon as the army left. Black Knights dropped down from the sky and quickly overwhelmed the little resistance on the ground. The king knew his country had fallen, but he had to confront their invaders. He said his goodbyes to Eleonora and left his daughter in her Auntie Martina's hands. The ladies escaped through a secret passage as the king entered his mech. He stepped out and requested a duel which was in accordance with the ancient way. Cristobal accepted the challenge and charged in. The king put up a valiant fight, but his mech wasn't strong enough, so he ended up losing the duel and his life. Eleonora wanted to return to her father, but her cousin named Isidora slapped her and let her know that the king asked for the duel to buy them enough time to escape. Reports of Kushpercha's fall reached the king of Zeludek, so he sent his sister to deal with the politics of taking over the country, because he knew Cristobal couldn't be trusted with it. Meanwhile, the escaping ladies were captured when they tried to leave via carriage. The Silver Phoenix Knights were sent to Kushpercha when they heard rumors of what was going on. The unit arrived at one of the checkpoints into the kingdom pretending to be merchants. Amris knew something was wrong when he saw the Zeludek flag on the tower. The guards confirmed this by alerting them that Kushpercha had fallen to them, and they demanded to search their carriages. Amris activated his mech and melted the gate with his blast. The guards were astounded with the firepower. Iru joined the fight in his new mech and decimated the Black Knights with sharp cuts and accurate blasts. After the battle, he noticed that the enemy used the same technology as them, which confirmed to them that Zeludek were the ones who stole the mech. Based on that, Iru saw himself as the rightful owner of the Black Knights and wanted to take the parts of the defeated mechs to use as he pleased. After the incident at the checkpoint, the Zeludek army started to talk about the strange mechs that terrorized them and named Iru's mech the Grim Reaper. All the while, Eleonora and co were brought back to the capital of Kushpercha, where she was to be married off to Cristobal since he was the second prince of the Zeludek kingdom. But she was not happy about it. Nora had infiltrated the main castle as a maid to gather information. The prince wanted them to deal with the strange mechs that were disturbing their men. General Delateo was reluctant as he saw it as an over-exaggerated rumor, but he sent his son Gustav to deal with it. Kerhilt volunteered to help. Nora reported the princess's plight to the Silver Phoenix Knights. Emrys was enraged, and Iru wanted them to discuss the rescue plan. All the while, the Zeludek army were looking for them and later located them. Gustav dropped down to engage the so-called merchants, but Dietrich and Helvi managed to hold them off in an intense clash. Kerhilt orchestrated their retreat when it seemed like Gustav was starting to get overwhelmed. He thanked her for her help but warned her not to interfere again.
The Silver Phoenix Knights arrived at the merchant city where the ladies were being held. Nora had prepared their silhouette gear for their rescue mission. That night, they headed to the castle where the prisoners were housed in separate towers. The Liberation Party split to tackle each tower. Archid hit the jackpot as his tower housed the princess. He informed her that they had come to rescue her, but she was reluctant to go with him. He got out of his gear and promised to be her knight who would protect her. Archid asked for his first mission as her knight, and she told him to save her. They leapt through the night sky and rendezvoused with the others. Eleonora was so happy to see that her auntie and cousin were also safe. They proceeded after the reunion. During that interval, Delateo was informed of the escape and gives the order to ready the airships so that they can pursue them. Gojas decided to join the hunt. He was the genius behind the flying ships and Zeludek's implementation of Iru's designs. By the following day, they had found the Silver Phoenix Knights and were preparing to launch some Black Knights to intercept them when Iru activated his mech. The lad was excited by the flying ship and wanted to take it to inspect and make his own. He flew up and cut down the Black Knights before they could drop. He landed on the ship and noticed that it used wind magic to stay afloat. Gojas was also stunned that someone used a completely different design philosophy to also achieve flight. He wanted to see more, but the general gave the order to shake Iru off and retreat after more Black Knights were wiped out. Gojas promised to let Iru know that the sky belonged to him. Their rivalry would turn out to be a core component of the war. Delateo returned without retrieving the princess, and he was berated by Cristobal like it's ancient times. The second prince was sure that this was not the work of Kushpercha's forces. The general carried on his report by mentioning the flying mech. They concluded that they must be a unit from the Eastern Kingdom, since that was where Martina was from. Meanwhile, the Silver Phoenix Knights arrived at a city along one of the old highways. There were still remnants of the Kushpershan noblemen alive. They had a meeting with Iru, who proposed their services to improve their mechs in exchange for the rights to all the Black Knights his squad defeat in battle. The nobles agreed to these conditions. Zeludek forces finally arrived at the city walls, but they were quickly defeated and forced to retreat thanks to the upgrades to the Kushperchan mechs. Emrys later heard that the princess was feeling down due to everything that had happened. This had made her reluctant to take the throne. Archid was sent to cheer her up since he was her knight. He took her around the mech workshop to get a closer look at the machines. After that, they went to the market and ended the day at the bell tower looking over the city. Archid turned into a seedy motivational guru as he tried to talk some confidence into her. He's a professional because it worked. Meanwhile, the sister of the king of Zeludek promised Kirhilt land if she could get the princess back dead or alive. This would mean that Kirhilt's family's name would be restored back to nobility. She accepted the job quicker than me, taking a free sample of anything. Kirhilt used her resources to learn that those causing mayhem are mainly students from the academy. They also knew their location, so they launched their operation one night, but it was a total failure. The Silver Phoenix anticipated an assassination attempt on the princess and the theft of their neck, so the princess was replaced with the classic pillow, and since the mechs now needed keys to operate them, they couldn't be stolen. All the culprits were captured, and Edgar got his rematch with Kirhilt. The two had a few high-level exchanges, but Edgar showcased his improvement when he got the upper hand and destroyed Kirhilt's mech with a thrust of his sword. She regretted not finishing him off during their first encounter. Eleonora was briefed on the situation the following morning. She was happy to hear that the threat had been dealt with and commended the knights with confidence.
Meanwhile, Cristobal learned of Kirhilt's failure and decided to go himself to retrieve his bride and crush the Silver Phoenix Knights, since he felt like everyone around him was incompetent. He deployed his army of airships and Black Knights and destroyed all the settlements on the way to the princess's location. They got ambushed as they got closer to the city. Iru developed some anti-air javelins that they rained down and took out a few of their airships. This forced the Zeludek army to prematurely release the Black Knights. Edgar was there with his unit to wipe them out, and Cristobal couldn't believe he fell for their trap. Iru sprang into action, and Gojas used this opportunity to analyze how the lad was achieving flight. During that interval, the Zeludek army continued to lose airships. The second prince didn't want to retreat and be a laughingstock. The other ground units tried to push forward, but Emrys was there to blow them away with his now infamous blast. Cristobal could see them losing at all areas of the battlefield and decided to retreat. Sadly, his ship was hit and started to drop speed. Iru caught up as he knew that someone important was on it, since it was the first one to run. Cristobal came out with his mech ready to face him. The prince first tried to recruit the lad, but realized that it was impossible when he learnt the current perks and autonomy Iru enjoyed. The second prince fired a blast that missed its target and rather hit the main engine. He knew he was outmatched, so started to shoot down his own airship. Cristobal laughed hysterically and cursed Iru as he crashed and met his demise. Gojas along with the others retreated since their flagship had gone down. The following day, the noble ladies were informed of the victory. Eleonora was just glad that everyone was safe. Meanwhile, Cristobal's sister was informed of his demise. Gojas promised to develop a new weapon to defeat Iru. He had extra motivation because he saw himself as the ruler of the skies. The news of Cristobal's demise sent shockwaves through the Zeludek army. They had no other option but to fall back further. This allowed the Kushperchan army to recapture some of their territories. The people welcomed them as heroes, and Eleonora finally had the courage to become queen to everyone's joy. She promised to drive away the invaders and rebuild their nation. Iru and his team gathered the parts from the downed airships. The lad learned a lot about the Zeludek technology and how their reactors run on aetherite, which is a solid form of mana, but it degrades to reactors faster. However, he didn't fully understand how the system worked and would have loved to meet Gojas to ask him some questions. He later met with the Queen and Martina about outfitting their army with more mechs. Iru agreed to lend them some. They pushed further with the expanded force, and after several months of campaigns, they retook many fortresses. The army celebrated one such victory when Zeludek countered with a dragon-inspired mech called Viver. Dolateo was the commander of it and looked to use it to avenge the prince. It unleashed a powerful blast that destroyed the fortress. Luckily, the Silver Phoenix Knights managed to dodge in time. Iru deployed to deal with it and could see that Gojas used his thrust design. All the while, Nora used the silhouette gears to help evacuate the remaining people in the fort. Iru started his aerial battle with the Viver and noticed that it had good defense. However, he couldn't stand the fact that a normal mech was embedded into the body of the dragon. He dashed into the attack, but he was swatted away by its tail. In that interval, Gustav led a ground unit, and he bumped into Dietrich for round 2 of their personal battle. They had a jaw-dropping clash, and Gustav had the upper hand initially when he broke all of Dietrich's blades, but the senior turned the tables when he disarmed him with an electric shock. He then forced Gustav to put too much load on his mech's reactor as they grappled. This destroyed it, leaving Gustav helpless. He had to eject from his machine and escape just before it got smashed. Meanwhile, in the sky, the Viver was equipped with a powder that clogged up Iru's jet thrusters, causing him to fall. Dolateo was desperate to finish the lad off, so he fired 2 huge blasts. But they are countered. This left the Viver low on energy, so the general had to retreat. Iru promised to never allow them to disable his jet thrusters like that again. The Silver Phoenix withdrew to rebuild, as that battle was considered a tie. This was the first time they didn't come out the victor. During the hiatus, Gojas created a bigger reactor to be used for the Viver. He also wanted to follow along for the next battle. Gustav was given a royal-class mech since he lost his other one. The crazy guy was looking forward to eliminating the enemy with it. Iru and the others were also busy coming up with the strategy to defeat the invaders. Eleonora suggested that they just attack the capital and take it back. She will also march with the army so that all their resources can be taken to the battlefield. Everyone agreed, so a plan was hatched, and all the preparations were made. Eleonora turned into the motivational guru as she gave a speech to get her men fired up. The goal of the operation was to take down the dragon battleship and recapture the capital city. They fought their way to the notorious Great Wall Fortress that protected the capital. All the bridges were drawn up to prevent the Kushperchen army and their allies from proceeding. Everyone fought hard while Nora joined a team that infiltrated the enemy lines to open a path for the rest of the army. Their goal was to put the bridges back down. Meanwhile, Dolateo was in the Viver and noticed that the queen was on the battlefield. He wanted to attack her before Iru showed up, but the lad was around. Gojas spotted him on an airship that was modified to the Silver Phoenix standard. The twins were also inside the ship in their mechs waiting for their orders. Iru and Gojas were just excited to clash to find out whose technology was better. The battle for the sky begun, and it was a ploy by Iru to move the dragon's attention onto him so that they could lure it away from the queen. The Silver Phoenix ship shot some oil-coated javelins at the Viver before setting it on fire. Dolateo and Gojas decided to use the new reactor. The energy released quenched the fire and put a barrier around the dragon that was the same shape as it. Back on the ground, Nora and the others managed to take over the control rooms and lowered the bridge. Gustav had his new mech modified to his spec and was ready to stop Edgar and his men from crossing. He was surprised when the other bridge started to come down, but he was too preoccupied taking out Edgar. The senior took heavy damage to stop his whirlwind blades, which left Gustav open to a blast from Emrys. His mech was destroyed and caused the cockpit to fly into the water. Back in the sky, Iru's shots were easily deflected by the barrier, so he decided to concentrate mana into his blade. This allowed him to pierce into the barrier, after which he attacked the dragon warship and destroyed it. Gojas accepted being bested this time and escaped before the Viver lost function. Dolateo took control of the warship from the mech embedded into the body and steered it toward the queen. She refused to flee because she was confident that Iru would protect her. The lad tried to stop it by directing full power to the thrusters. The general fired an attack at the queen, but it only hit her guards. Arch had leapt from their airship onto the dragon and attacked Dolateo, directly ending his life, allowing Iru to push the warship away. He picked up Archid as everyone cheered because the Zeludek army's air superiority was lost. The Kushperchen army and their allies took the Great Wall Fortress and proceeded to the capital, which had little resistance because all knights were sent to defend the fort. Cristobal's sister was captured, and the Zeludek king's ambition collapsed. Eleonora was officially coronated as the queen. This sent a signal to the world that the Kushperchen Empire was back. The Silver Phoenix Knights prepared to head back to their kingdom on their airship with all their loot. The queen had a private moment with Archid where she hugged him for all his help. Everyone later gathered to wave their saviors goodbye. Gustav and the remaining soldiers started their long journey back home. Gojas took one last look at Iru's flying ship before looking at his map to the next kingdom to set up shop. The Silver Phoenix Knights returned home as heroes, and Iru was given another empty check, so he requested their own mech lab. They were able to bring airships to all nations. People gained a new way to travel, which opened up a new era, bringing the season to an end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.
Okay.